welcome to the Grendhill Chronicles podcast. My name is Don Bishop, and I write as T.S. Pedramon.
Hey, really quick announcement before I go any further with this podcast. Come and see me next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday on November 7th in Vegas. So I will be at Author Nation throughout the first full week in November, and the end of that week is Reader Nation, and the venue will be open to the public. This is at Horseshoe in Las Vegas, and you can come and meet me and meet lots of other indie authors and buy books if you like. If not, just shake hands and say hi. That'll be cool too. But yes, Friday, November 7th, I think it starts at 10 a.m. I'm not sure. Or you can try to message me and see if I have availability to hang out during the week. I'm going to be pretty busy because I'll be at the Author Nation conference. Anyway, yeah, come see me.
And my episodes have been a little sporadic lately. I took a day job on, actually going back to what I got my degree in. So I am teaching
come see
band.
Me and back to our regular scheduled podcast.
Enjoyable.
And
there's a lot of driving. I took a job that's kind of far from home. But it is what it is. So before we get any further, if you've been listening, you know that I do a giveaway each week, and to win, you need to guess a number, but to qualify, you have to answer the question of the week. So last week's question of the week was, what magical ability would ruin your life the fastest? And we got some interesting answers. You can check in my Discord server to see those. Now, for the winner, and I don't know who the winner was yet, because while I record, it's still open. It closes when I reveal this number, when I publish this episode. So by the time you hear this, that question has closed. Now I'm about to give you a new question, but so you can see the winning number, and if you are privy to this information, obviously you can no longer guess for this week. But the winning number, you can see what I wrote down. Oh dear, my camera went crazy. Okay, the winning number was 640, and the letter, if you want to do the 2-book power up, was F. And you can see all the rules for that on grendhill.media/prizes. Now, I am going to go ahead and generate a new random number and random letter, and I pull this from random generators online, so I don't think up these numbers because I want to try to make sure it's as fair as possible. So that's the number, and that's the letter. So jump into my Discord server to see if you want to see who won. Or you can wait until the next episode. So I don't know who won today's, but the previous episode's giveaway was won by Jenny Posthumus, and you can see her answer and her number guess in my Discord server. And she actually chose one of my books, which makes me happy because I want people to read my book, but you can find other books on there as well. Okay, now if I seem like I'm discombobulated, it's because I am. I've been working this job, and things have been crowded out, so I haven't been thinking about these things much lately. But yeah, remember so I will give you at the end of this episode the new question of the week, and if you want to win a free book, like a free print book, and I'll mail it to you, and if it's one of mine, I'll sign it for you, then you can tweet at me, you can email me. I'll tell you the question right now. It's relevant to today's interview. I won't save it till the end of the episode. So this episode's question of the week is, what's something that you've done that you wish you could take back? And so you can tweet at me, you can email me, you can jump into the Discord server, which is probably the best way to do it, because then you can see other answers and have an interesting conversation. So you answer that question of the week, and then you guess a number between 1 and 1,000. The closest number to the number that I just wrote down wins the giveaway for the episode. And if you guess a letter, then if your letter is the letter that I wrote down, or it's either one adjacent to it, then you can pick two books instead of just one. So that's the business. I don't really have announcements right now. I kind of do, but that'll come out during the conversation. So without further ado, I have UK author of fantasy Charlotte Goodwin here with me on the episode today. And so, Charlotte, I will now cut it. Like up until now, anybody watching on YouTube will just see me. Um, but now, all right, here you are.
Hello. Hi there. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for being on. And I know I'm awkward, so I appreciate your patience. So, Charlotte, I saw your profile on X and you said something that I thought was really interesting and would make an interesting conversation for the episode. So you said that a year ago, you set the publishing dates for your trilogy. Your books were drafted, just needed polishing, and you were excited to launch. You published, things went wrong, you pulled your book. Now you find you're scared to relaunch. Where did your excitement go? And I was like, yeah, I feel that. So, um, is there anything you'd like to um, expound upon, or I mean, I have comments, but I don't want to jump in too early.
Yeah, so I guess like a lot of authors, you write because you want your books to be read. And so it's kind of an exciting feeling to think that my book's going to be out there and people can read it and enjoy it, because I guess that's ultimately why we all write in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sort of thinking, well, in order to get maximum readership, then you need to try and do the marketing. And I thought one good way to do that would be to try and build pre-orders. So as you sort of mentioned, a year out, I thought, well, yeah, my books are in a pretty good place. I reckon there's no reason why I can't publish them a year out. So Amazon lets you put them up for pre-order a year in advance. So that's what I did, and I set all my dates. And then what happened is I basically got let down by my editor. And then so it was summer 2024, and my booktuber is there, or nearly, we're getting there. I booked my editor for October. Said he would take about a month. November came and went. We're into December. No book back. Get to January, still no book, and then he's like, "Oh yeah," starts drip feeding me chapters. Says, "Oh yeah, I'll keep sending them as I go along, so that you can work on my comments."
Okay. I just had some problem with my connection, but we're back on. And so you were saying that you set the dates for your trilogy, and you had an editor, and you planned it for October. So um, we can go ahead and pick up.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I set my publishing dates a year out. I had my editor booked for October. The end of October came. We're into December, and still I didn't get my book back. And then come January, he's like, "Oh, gave me lots of excuses and starts drip feeding me chapters at fewer time."
Mm-hmm.
So it just wasn't happening quickly enough. And now I was sort of thinking, well, I'm due to publish this in May. And not only do I need to get it back from you, I need to work through all your comments, and I need to do proofreading and all the rest of it. So by March, I'd still got back less than half my book. So I was like, right, it's time to cut my losses here. So I tried to find another editor, and I did find another editor. And, nice guy. And he did turn it around really quickly, but I was after a line and a copy edit, and I think he just basically did something close to a copy edit. He didn't do the sort of full line editing, and he wasn't that thorough. So, it was getting on by this point, and my publishing date was rapidly approaching. So,
No.
yeah, I rushed through everything and, did all the formatting and everything. And I don't think I did a decent proofread at the end of it. So, what happened is it ended up being released in May with some errors in it, which I'm really frustrated that happened. I didn't realize they were there when they went out. But equally, the developmental side wasn't done as well as it could have been. But that's almost a separate issue. So yeah, it went out in May. And yeah, reviews started coming. I was there like desperate for reviews, and I wanted reviews, and it's like, yeah, tell me what you think. I really sort of hope people enjoyed it. And I
Hmm.
got a few in that were from the advanced readers that I'd sent it out to, but they
Yeah.
were not verified purchasers. So um, when I got the first verified purchase review through, it was a 3-star review, and I read it, and my sort of gut just sank, and it's just like 3 stars is like nobody wants their first review to be 3 stars,
Right.
and so at that point, I guess I went to Twitter and I basically says, first verified purchase review, and it's 3 stars. I can't remember exactly what I said. I think I put something like, gutted or something like that. And then what happened from there is the an awful lot of people got really excited about that and seemed to have some quite strong opinions on whether or not I should have an opinion on a 3-star review. And most people were positive and kind of get it. I
Oh,
think most
uh-huh.
authors kind of understand that.
Okay.
You want a
I
4 or
I thought
5
you were saying everybody came in like, "Well, why should you have an opinion about somebody's review on your book?" And I'm like, people are so quick to judge. Okay, so people were
Yeah,
positive. Okay.
most people, yeah, some weren't. But
Uh-huh.
yeah. Do you want me to continue with what happened next?
Um, wow. So, I mean, so that your editor, that wasn't your fault that the editor was um, not diligent and didn't deliver as promised, and that's a huge
Yeah.
letdown.
Two
Uh,
editors.
oh
And
yeah.
you know what? All this boiled down in part to me trying to save money because I had a different editor that had worked on my second trilogy, which I actually released first and then unpublished a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
And she was really good. Um, she wasn't the cheapest editor in the world, but in the interim, after that, I built up a relationship with a different guy who promised the world,
Hmm.
and I'm sure he was really good, but he just didn't deliver. So the work I got back from him was much more heavily edited than you'd expect from a line and a copy edit. But it also came back with shed loads of typos and flaws in it. So I was having to correct his work because he wasn't doing it in Word, he was doing it in something else. And so there was loads of formatting issues in there. Um, so, now later on, and I'm sort of skipping forward, I've actually gone back with my tail between my legs to my original editor and I'm engaging with her again. But yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, with my books, I have a couple of things that were. I mean, I can only blame myself, really. So, like in my first book, in Forerunner, um, I discovered just like a couple of months ago, and it's been out for a year and a half, that there was a scene missing. And okay, let's say maybe it's not entirely my fault. Maybe it's the software as well. But I should have been more careful in checking and making sure that things turned out. Because somewhere it happened, like this, the scene got written, it got edited, it was part of what I sent out to my beta readers, so they read it, and then somewhere along going from there to formatting it the second time, because I gave my beta readers an ebook after running it through Atticus, and anyways, somewhere in there between that and publishing it, a scene got deleted and or omitted, and it still works without that scene. It's not a groundbreaking scene. But I mentioned something for the first time in that scene, and then it gets mentioned the second time, assuming the reader already knows about it. And so, if you're a smart reader, obviously you'll pick it up like, oh, so that's something happening. But it's a little bit confusing, and I didn't discover it until I was recording my audiobook. Um, and I turned the page, and I'm trying to read the start of this chapter, and I mentioned this thing. I'm like, wait, I introduced the thing. I know I introduced it. Why am I mentioning it now without introducing it? yeah, there's a scene missing. A short scene, again, not groundbreaking. It still works without it, but it's a little confusing right there. So, and as of right now, because I started this job, I have not had the opportunity um, to work that scene back into, or not back, but into production. So, like if you went and got my ebook right now, it still doesn't have the scene. And all it needs is for me to get a couple of hours, and I can fix that. But as of right now, it's still not in there. Although, I talked about, I online, I posted like, whoa, well, this chapter is missing the first scene. You can read the scene right here, and I posted it online. But um, I was hasty in publishing, and that led to that, because if I weren't hasty, I would have carefully checked through the entire book all the way through, and then there's my audiobook, which is out right now. I got an email from Audible yesterday that it's available for purchase, and I'm thinking very strongly of pulling it, because I I don't like this. Maybe I just don't like the sound of my voice, but when I listen to it, I think there are quality issues, and uh, it's somewhere in the recording and the mastering, and which I did myself. And so if there are issues, I can only blame myself. Uh, but okay, so back to you. So you had um, where were we? So you published,
Mhm.
and then did you were you just like thinking about the issues that you knew about, and then you came to the decision to pull it?
You know what? It's a little bit sort of more complicated than just the formatting and grammatical errors and a few other bits and bobs. So, I mean, that was one of the issues. I actually quickly corrected a lot of the grammatical stuff,
Uh-huh.
and that was fixed, and the version was online. But what happened shortly after my post, which it got over 100,000 hits on Twitter, and a lot of people commented on it.
Wow.
And because it got a lot of exposure, there was somebody that saw that particular tweet that, for whatever reason, decided to do a troll on all my historic posts. And I'm normally very careful about posting anything remotely political. And they found a
Hmm.
post from sort of sometime in spring no, last year, so 2024, where I'd replied to somebody else's tweet. And bearing in mind, I tweet like most days, someone has gone through a hell of a lot of tweets to find this.
Uh-huh.
And I replied to one with relating to the Israel-Gaza conflict and stated that the what was happening in Palestine wasn't genocide. And my reason for saying that is because my kind of view is if that they wanted to wipe out all the Palestinians, it'd just drop a load of bombs on them and be done with it. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's basically me looking at it in pure terms of the black and white. Anyway, as most people know, a lot of people have got some very strong opinions on this subject. So what happened with that particular comment, it got circulated amongst the pro-Palestine people,
Uh-huh.
who suddenly got an awful lot more excited than the people that just commented on my original post about my review.
Uh-huh. So it
And
kind of blew up.
yeah, and it was those people that started review bombing my book. So I got all kinds of horrid slurs on there, calling me Zionist and whole range of things relating to that. And then, there's a collection of really nasty things on there. And some people who'd clearly decided to, read the first chapter of my book so they can make their review sound more genuine, as they proceeded to completely slate it. And I just got one star review after one star review after one star review, and it just exploded. And I was getting hate. It was both Goodreads and Amazon, and then people were sending me all kinds of nasty messages on Twitter. Obviously I blocked everybody that was horrible on Twitter. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, but I mean, through all this sort of storm, it did attract a lot of interest in my book, and there were some people that did read it and when I read the sort of reviews and stuff, there were a few things he said in there that rang true, despite all the hate. I mean, they weren't balanced reviews to a large extent, but there were some things in there that made me sort of think, is my book right? Yeah, I'd fix the grammatical and formatting things, but in terms of the developmental side of things, I just had doubts about my book. And I thought to myself, well, with all these horrid reviews it's got online, and maybe it's not quite perfect. I can't stick this one out, which is why I pulled it.
Hmm.
And it's two
Yeah.
sequels. And I thought, well, maybe I can take this as an opportunity, because if I hadn't been review bombed, I would have left my book as it was, with the grammar and formatting stuff fixed, and it would have just sat there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it would have got read, and it might have got some reasonable reviews, but I don't think it would have ever been great, because perhaps there was a few developmental things in there that I could improve. So I've sort of tried to take this, as I say, as an opportunity. I've pulled it, and now I've got some more beta readers, and I've made some more changes, and then I'm getting it edited again by a new decent editor. And it's actually just gone off. I sent it off to an editor last week, and yeah, so it'll come back out, and I'll just wait for this whole storm to die down and all the trolls to forget about me, and then next year I'll put it back out there, and hopefully, in the long run, I'll end up with a better book. And yeah, and with a bit of luck, I'll have more success than I would have done otherwise.
Yeah. Wow. That is, I did not expect things to take that turn. You got political review bombed,
Hmm.
politically motivated review bombs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that could be a pretty valid reason to pull it, because they they had nothing to do with the content or quality of your book, right?
Hmm.
They weren't there, um, assigning a rating to how good your book was, how exciting it was, or anything like that. Oh man.
So yeah, it was really tricky, because I'd spent so long building up to this and everything else I'd struggled with, and then it's just watching your work being trashed online. It's just
Oh yeah.
not nice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and so I mean, when you do publish again, obviously I guess you'll use a different ISBN. I don't know if you have I don't know how ISBNs really work in the UK. I know in the US, if you don't buy a ton at once, then they're very expensive for each
Hmm.
one. Uh, in Canada, they're free. So I mean, how is that in the UK? Do you have alternate ISBNs available easily?
Um, so I don't know the full depth of it, but I mean, I just publish to Amazon, and
Hmm.
Amazon issues you with an ISBN. So when I republish, all I need to do is republish it with a different name, and
Yeah.
Amazon
Yeah.
treats it as a new book.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm changing the titles of my book, to sort of give them a fresh start on that front,
Okay.
and the previous ones will just be sort of resigned to history. The only thing is, I can't get rid of them off Goodreads. I've tried to have various debates with Goodreads about things, because what really annoyed me is the three books I'd released prior, my second trilogy, were still on Goodreads, and the trolls decided to go after those as well. So, books that aren't even available for purchase and haven't been available for purchase for 2 years, they, gave them a load of one-star reviews. And I tried to explain all this to Goodreads, and they refused to do anything about it. So that's a bit depressing, because I am going to re-release those.
Yeah.
And thankfully, they can't do anything to my reviews on Amazon, because they're unpublished. You can only review them when they're sort of live. So they've only gone after them on Goodreads, but and on Amazon they've got decent reviews. So I'll just hope that most people don't care about Goodreads and just leave the Amazon reviews when they go live again.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
you could publish them under a pen name, like publish them under a different name, and under a different title. So
hmm.
when readers find you, the author, and find other books by you, it wouldn't be connected, you know. And so then,
Yeah, I get that, and I know there's an argument for that, but there's a
and you
part
wouldn't
of
have to
me that,
hide it. You wouldn't have to
sorry,
hide it, you know. Like you
yeah.
could put in the front matter of your book, like
Hmm.
this was previously published as title under author name. You know, like you can be upfront about it, but just having a different author name would make it so that Goodreads it wouldn't be on the same author page. But
Yeah.
that's just an idea. I'm just throwing it out. I'm
Yeah.
not saying you necessarily should. So whatever.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I think there's a lot of good reasons for doing it that way. It's something other people have suggested, but there's a part of me that just kind of says, no, I'm just owning this. I've
Hmm.
got my website. I wrote a blog post about this whole debacle, so I'm not going to hide from it. My approach is just to face it head on and draw attention to how nasty people can be. So I wrote a post and I cut and paste a load of those horrible reviews and I put them on my post and I said, this is what happened to me and these are what these people do. I mean, there is a side of me that knows that these people are just a mob of pitchfork wielding sort of fanatics who run around sort of screaming, kill the witch. But ultimately, eventually the witch goes away and they get bored and they move on to the next victim. They will have forgotten
Hmm.
about me next year. I'm not a high profile enough person for them to stay on my case and chase me forevermore. So my sort of perspective is, yeah, it happened. I'm going to move on from it. And in the grand scheme of things, the amount of people are going after me, if I have any success, will be completely and utterly drowned out by the people that enjoy and support my work.
Yeah. Oh man, this is heavy. Like ah. Okay. So um, looking at your profile on X, I see your backdrop image says the Galantrian Legacy. Is that the new name?
No. So my series was always called The Galantrian Legacy. So
Mhm.
it's set in a world where there's an ancient race of Galantrians, which is a kind of alien.
Yeah,
Um,
tell us about your story.
Yeah, so in my universe, I have a scenario where you have Earth, as Earth exists today, but there's a faraway planet in a sort of distant galaxy, which is very similar to Earth in many respects, and that's a magical planet. So whereas Earth has got a magnetic field, this planet has got a magic field. So
Nice.
people on this planet can tap into that
I'm
magic field
I'm
and
gonna I'm gonna change my image from my camera to your backdrop image because I think
okay.
these look pretty nice. Uh, let me
And do you want to pause?
go ahead.
Okay, cool. So so there's a faraway planet and it's got a magic field, and then in this universe that I've created, there's a race of aliens called the Zargons, who are like a peaceful race of aliens who just study and observe life on planets. So they have a spaceship that orbits Earth, they have a spaceship that orbits the faraway planet I've created, and they
Hmm.
have a crew of aliens on there whose job it is to monitor the life forms and study them from a scientific basis, and they monitor all inhabited planets. And so what sort of happened is the sort of whole thing kicked off when one alien was watching a young princess on the magical planet, and she
Yeah.
was about to get assassinated by a stepmother, and she abducted her. And because they have a do no harm mantra, they're not supposed to interfere in things. They couldn't really, they didn't know what to do with her. They couldn't put her back on her own planet because she'd get killed. Everybody on her own planet thought she was dead because she was pulled away just as a magical blast was about to hit her. So they put her on Earth, and she's raised on Earth and thinks she's an ordinary girl because her memories are wiped. And then later on, they decide to send her back because her evil stepmother's basically committing actual genocide by
Hmm.
trying to wipe out the goblins and the dwarves and the elves because she's doesn't like them. So
And
that's kind of the premise. But the reason her stepmother, well, there's kind of like a mysterious wormhole that connects these two planets,
yeah,
and
is that
and the Zygon, yeah, which is basically, without going too much depth, a legacy of these Galantrians, which um, their sort of existence and influence is slowly revealed through the whole of the two trilogies.
it's
And at the end, you kind of work out, you find out what's going on with those guys.
is the wormhole this gateway that I see on the cover of the General's Sun?
Yeah, that is one of the wormholes. There's actually
Mm.
a couple of them, but yeah, that's one of them.
I like all these covers. They're great. Like you have for the King of Vorn, you have somebody with glowing hands. So like there's obviously
Mm.
magic, but in the
Yeah.
background there's a spaceship. And then
Mm.
on the prince's nephew, I'm getting Treasure Planet vibes. Like there's a sailing ship, but then the background is space. Like you see stars and whatnot.
Mm.
So
Yeah, because the Zargons have got a thread of their own, which kind of runs in parallel to what's going on the planet's surface. And so there is some space stuff, and there is actually a bit of a space battle at the end of The Prince's Nephew as well.
yeah.
So there's kind of other stuff happening, and there are some scenes, certainly in
Oh,
later books, with set on the
right.
planet Zarg, which is where the Zargons are from.
And on the Queen of Vorn, I assume it's the first in the series, but that must
Yeah.
be the wormhole that this person is looking through.
You know what? I'm actually going to change that cover a bit
Mhm.
because it's slightly disingenuous because she doesn't go through a wormhole in the first book. I mean, there are wormholes kind of alluded to and used in space, but I'm doing some editing to that cover, so it's going to
Yeah.
be a little bit tweaked before it gets re-released.
Okay. Do you do your own covers?
So no, I mean, in these cases, I got a designer to do them,
Mm-hmm.
and what I do is I get the Photoshop files off her, and then I sort of end
Yeah.
up meddling and tweaking with them myself
Yep.
because I kind of struggle to get the initial concept sometimes, and also the right imagery to go in there. So when I get a designer, she comes to me with these things, and I think she's got all the characters on there really well, and there's no way I could have done that myself. So when I've got those files, I can start meddling with them and sort of tweaking them how I want, which is kind of easier than going back and forth with the designer 10 times.
Yeah. Well, cool stuff. All right. That's probably a good wrap for the conversation overall, unless you had anything else you wanted to comment or get in there before we close.
No, not really. I mean, I say work continues. I'm just sort of trying to polish my books, and I suppose the initial premise of your question, I'm scared to
Oh,
relaunch. I mean, yeah, I don't have dates set for them yet
okay. I
because
was about to ask that.
yeah, so it's like complete change from when I wanted to release these. Yeah, I really want to get them out there. I'm going to set my day and I'm going to put it out there, and I'm really keen to get them out. And now I'm like, I'm really worried that I'm going to put them out and they're not going to be perfect because I
Yeah.
really don't want to repeat of what
Well,
happened before because it was just so,
are
hard to
you
go through.
are you big in the indie author scene? Like, are you do you have do you follow a lot of people? Um, anyway, so there's somebody named Craig Martell who's a
Hmm.
kind of big in the indie author scene,
Yeah.
and he was running the 20 Books Vegas conference.
Okay.
He retired from that. Now it's called Author Nation. But anyway, something that he told me is perfect is the enemy of done, and
Hmm.
it's true. Like you want your baby to be perfect. You want to make sure you go through and find and get rid of every little mistake. And if you do that, you'll never be done. If you require absolute perfection, you'll never be done. And so I think it is good to have kind of a time frame or a number of passes that you do, you or an editor, third party, whatever, um, and then you take what you're able to and you put it out there. But I'm not saying push it out unready. You get it as ready as possible. And so like my my first book, when I realized that there were obvious typos, I was so embarrassed. And so like right after I right after I published it and I found some of these things, I I lost sleep and pushed out corrections, and then of course I found more typos. And so like that very first published version was very quickly replaced by a new manuscript file that corrected several typos, and then I found more typos when I had to go and review it while I was writing my second book to make sure things were consistent between the two. I found more typos. So when I published my second book, I also published a second printing, which was kind of already the third printing, But I called it the second printing in the front on the copyright page. It says second printing October 2024. And now I found, like, while I read the audiobook, I found a lot more typos, and it's so frustrating and so embarrassing. And um, so I have a corrected manuscript. I just need to go through and do the final formatting and export it again, um, in Atticus, and I will call it third printing. I won't call it a new edition because I'm not changing what anything says per se. I have done some things like, if I felt where the pronoun he or she was a little vague, then I inserted the character's name, you know?
Mm.
Um, but there's one thing in particular I know that there is still an error, and I left it in on purpose because my intent right now is to issue another printing, not a new edition. When I do a new edition, I'm gonna look at I'm gonna look deeper and make bigger edits. And I don't know when this will happen. Maybe it never will. But I'll look at pacing, and I might even reorder some scenes. I might cut scenes. I don't know, but like that would be what a second edition would be for. Whereas
Mm.
in the first edition, even after I publish this third printing that I'm trying to find time to publish, even after I publish the third printing, it's still going to have this error where, main character needs some water, and she's tied up. She doesn't really like have her hands available to her. So one of her captors unstops her water skin and puts it in front of her, and then she uses her teeth to unstop the water skin. So it she has to unstop it even though it was already unstopped. So that's a continuity error.
Yeah.
And I left it in because I'm in doing a printing. I'm not trying to change what the words say, even if what the words say might be confusing or obviously at some degree doesn't make sense. Um, I'm changing some things where it's uh, where it's syntactical, it doesn't make sense, or it wasn't clear who said that. Then I went ahead and changed that word. Um, in other words, I'm not changing what the words say. I'm just making sure that it's clear what they're saying. So
Mm.
even if it's wrong, like the water skin being uncapped twice, I left it in anyway. So yeah, and perfect is the enemy of done. Um, I could make another pass through and uh, probably find more typos. And with my second book, I know that there are typos in there. I found some uh, very easily accidentally opening it up to check on something while I write my third book, and um, again, like that's on me for pushing it out fast. Oh, it was a whirlwind. I lost a lot of sleep this time last year because I was trying to finish the edits. I had my beta readers begin the book before I finished the end, which is not best practice. But I think it's a good book. Like when I was getting ready to write book three, I opened it up and to a random spot. Not random. I was looking for a particular thing, but like about three-quarters of the way through, maybe a little further, and I was like, oh, oh, that's cool. And you're like, I wrote this. This is cool. But I also saw typos.
Yeah.
And
It is great when you read about your own stuff and you're like, yeah, this is actually pretty decent,
yeah.
which is always a really good feeling.
So, um, so where can listeners find you online? And so you don't have any books out right now, correct?
No, no, none of them are out right now. No. So I'm hoping to get them all out next year. My
Okay.
outline plan is to rapid release them in trilogies. So I'll probably release them a month apart for the first trilogy, and then I'll have a break and then release the second trilogy a little while after, maybe 6 months after that, something like that.
Okay.
That's kind of my outline plan. So I will get them all out next year. They are all very close to being done, but then I want to do some work on the covers and tweak a few other things and get some pre-launch marketing stuff in place and things.
Do you have a newsletter if somebody wants to be
Mhm.
notified when your books are released?
Yeah. So basically, the best place to find out anything about me and my books and newsletters and all the rest of it is on my website, which is www.charlottegoodwin.co.uk. So that's co.uk. So yeah, I got a blog on there as well. I recently wrote a blog, was it last week, which talks all about my journey through editing and all the pitfalls I've made, and talks about a lot of the lessons learned. I aptly named it an idiot's guide to editing. So if you're quite new to editing and try and want to understand all the mistakes that I've made and try not to repeat them, then I talk all about that. And the blog post before that talks about my little drama on Twitter, which
Mm-hmm.
caused all kind of problems. But there's also on the contact page, there's a sign up for my newsletter on there as well. So if you want to keep up to date, I send out my newsletters monthly-ish, there or thereabouts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sounds cool. So for listeners, question of the week is, what's something you've done that you wished you could take back? Now you can see the relevance to today's discussion. And Charlotte, before we hang up, I would like to invite you to create a character for inclusion in the Nightshade Unicorn universe. Now I reserve the right to modify the character to fit the story, to fit the universe, and this character will appear at least once, but maybe that's it. Or maybe I'll be like, oh man, this character needs to come back and again and play a major part. I don't know. So you can give me just a name, or you can give me a personality or a physical description, however you like. And this world doesn't have orcs or elves. It's humans.
Mm-hmm.
There are unicorns. They are intelligent. They talk. Um, and there are other magical creatures. And I've not set the cap on what these magical creatures include. Like I made one up a few days ago while I was dictating. I just named one. Anyway, so that's kind of the scope.
Mm-hmm. So my character, it's good that you said you got unicorns, because I was thinking, oh, I want to create a unicorn character. So my character is a unicorn, and this particular unicorn had a bit of a mishap with their own magic, and they cast a spell on a human and managed to zap their consciousness into their own. So this unicorn has now got the human's consciousness along with its own consciousness, and they are constantly having sort of internal debates about what way forward and how to sort of progress. And the human character that got zapped into the brain was a little bit of a loser, a bit of a nobody. I mean, I suppose almost a little bit like oh, come on, brain, what's that? What's the film with the alien where he gets I'm having a brain fart here. Never I can picture it. The green alien that gets sucked into the guy. There's out really recently. Anyway, so a bit of a
I don't know if
loser.
I've seen it.
You what? Sorry.
I don't know if I've seen it. It's not ringing a bell.
Yeah. Sorry, I've forgotten the flipping name. It's just for some reason the names escape me. But anyway, so this guy's a bit of a loser, and you've got this sort of heroic unicorn character who's constantly having this inner monologue with this sort of loser human who's constantly trying to run and hide, whereas the unicorn wants to be brave and go forwards, but the human kind of restrains him a little bit.
Okay, that is interesting. And then I'll have to think about how to adapt that. But that is really interesting. I like that. And if you, yeah, I could have fun working this character in. Okay. It's probably that's probably a wrap. Don't hang up. I'm gonna stop the recording, and we'll talk a little bit after. So For all our listeners out there, look her up, charlottegoodwin.co.uk, and I'll include the link in the show notes. I'll also include a link to her profile on X, and we'll catch you next time on the Grendhill Chronicles podcast.